Welcome to the residence of Sam Clements. I'm here with a group of 5 people who are well fed now, and we're just making sure that all phones are silent. I'll be handing off the phone to my new friend Marvin. Hey, first off, welcome to my humble abode. I'm glad to have you all here. I'm really excited to give this TED presentation to you. I want to start off this presentation with a simple question, and I want you all to think about it, answer it in your head. If you've ever had a news story, and that could be from a newspaper, a magazine, television, or radio, that has changed the way you look at the world, or that has inspired you to do something different, to actually get up and go someplace and do something inspirational. First time this happened to me actually was when I was about 14 years old. It was kind of by accident. My parents had a subscription to Time magazine, and they'd leave the Time magazines in the bathroom, so when you're doing your business, you have something to read. And I hold to this day that it is better to be reading a magazine than it is to be on your smartphones. Now, this particular day, I decided to pick up the Time magazine, and I saw this cover, which was the Time magazine cover for Hurricane Katrina, which, as you all know, in 2005 devastated New Orleans, killed hundreds of people, and left thousands and thousands of people homeless. Now, I had heard about Hurricane Katrina. It had happened about a month beforehand. But I never really digested how important of an event this was. So when I started flipping through this magazine, and I started looking at the pictures and reading the stories of the people who had survived this, I found myself experiencing something I hadn't before. I cared about these people I had never met before. And as you guys know, if you know 14-year-olds, it's really hard to get them to care about anything outside their immediate vicinity. So, all I could think about at that moment was, I need to get out of this bathroom, I need to get in my car, and I need to drive 1,000 miles to New Orleans and help people. I need to do it right now. But I didn't have a license, and I was a freshman in high school, so I wasn't going anywhere. However, for my dad could do something about this. This story affected him in much the same way it affected me. So he got out with a bunch of volunteers, gathered up a bunch of tools, clean water and food, got into a couple minivans and Suburbans, and drove from Charlotte, North Carolina to New Orleans for a week. And you know what? I was really jealous about this. He missed my birthday, dang it. But you know what? It actually doesn't bug me that he missed my birthday. It bugged me that I couldn't go along with him. But you know what? It's okay. Now, ever since this happened, I've been interested in the news. My coworkers could often look over and see me reading the New York Times or some other news website that was going on, because for me, it was about finding those stories that changed people's lives, that inspired me to do great things. Now, I asked you a question at the beginning, which is if a story has ever affected you in a way such as this. Now, some of you may have had a story come to mind immediately. Others of you might be mulling it over in your mind right now. And for some of you, the answer might be no. You've never had a story affect you like this. And that's okay. But what I want to tell you today, what I want to promise you, is that there is a story out there waiting for you that will change your life. The challenge and the kicker is you need to be looking for it to be able to find it. And what am I talking about here? I'm talking about the need to consume more news media. Now, some of you may think that that's a little bit difficult to do, and in reality, it's a big beast. With the advent of the internet, there have been hundreds, if not thousands, of news websites, news channels, radio show hosts, you name it. And it can seem a little overwhelming. I get that. So we're going to dumb it down for you today. We're going to make it bite-sized. Now, one of the things that I find, the first question we need to answer is, where are you going to find your story? Now, some of you may be thinking, Sam, what about the liberal media? How do I know what sources to trust? That's a great question. So I've compiled a list of carefully studied news sources that I want you to look through here. We've got the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, NPR stands for National Public Radio, and then on the other page we have The Economist, Time Magazine, and USA Today. Now, all of you, I want you to do the next thing for me. I want you to take 2 of these sources, just 2 of them, and get them in your mind. All right? These are now your 2 sources of news. That's where you're going to be going. And if I could give you something of an assignment, After we're done here tonight, I want you to get on your smartphones or your laptops or your tablets, and I want you to visit the website of whatever sources, whatever 2 sources you went to, and just skim through it. You don't need to read anything in depth, but I want you to become familiar with it. Because when you become familiar with it, it becomes less scary. And remember, just these 2 sources. You don't need to pick 12 or 20 sources like me. Now the next question is, how often to consume the news? Now if you're like me, I consume roughly about 2 hours of news a day. I have no problem with it. I live off that. It's just a joy for me to skim through stuff, to read article after article. And that might be because I was a journalist myself, and you don't have to do that. You don't even have to do a half hour. I'm talking merely 10 to 15 minutes. And you can consume this any way you want. If it's easy to read while you're in the bathroom like me, perfect. If on your ride to work you've got 10 or 15 minutes, instead of listening to music on the way there, get into NPR. Just listen to some stories for a few minutes. See how the economy's doing. See what's going on locally. If you've got a few minutes to yourself on a break, just pull up a video of something going on, of protests going on the other side of the country, seeing what's going on in England or France or Russia. Because when we do this, you will get smarter. A report by Business Insider found that every single billionaire consumes at least 30 minutes to an hour of news a day. That is not a coincidence. People who read the news become more familiar with things going on in the world, but more importantly, they become more familiar with things going on in their own lives. You're able to make informed decisions where you may not have been able to do that before. And I'm saying that from somebody who used to be very ignorant about stuff. If you had known me as a child, you'll know that I knew nothing. And because of that, I allowed forces to act on me instead of to act on them. Now, a disclaimer. You can actually consume too much news. And I'd ask you not to. Because consuming too much, and it's variable for each person, can make you depressed, it can make you anxious. There's a lot of bad news out there. It's unfortunate. And there is something to say for ignorance is bliss. It's true in a lot of ways. Back in November, I took a week off of the news, gave it up completely. I'll let you figure out what week that was. But I felt great afterwards. I felt like I was going in with a new pair of eyes, energized and happy. However, that bliss that people sometimes experience, that becomes addictive. They don't want to go back to reading the news because they're happy being ignorant. And I'd ask you not to. Because those people that you saw that were affected by Hurricane Katrina, they were helped by thousands of volunteers from around the United States who came in droves when they saw the news about this. So if ignorance is bliss, I counter that with one argument and one argument only. Knowledge is power, and that is the real bliss. Thank you so much for coming tonight.